In this video, I want to discuss the derivative of the function f of x equals tan of x. So hopefully you've already seen that if we take the derivative of sine x, what we get is cosine x. And maybe you've already seen too that if we take the derivative of cosine x, we get negative sine x. So maybe that's review, maybe that's new to you, but both of these we'll need to use in this video. Okay, so tan x is really sine of x divided by cosine x. Its domain is all real numbers except those that make cosine x equal to 0. So in particular, we don't want x to be equal to pi over 2, or 3 pi over 2, or 5 pi over 2, or on the other hand, negative pi over 2, etc. Other than that, tan x will be defined. And if you think about graphing it, tan x tends to have these vertical asymptotes at those places where the denominator becomes 0, where it's not defined. Okay, so it kind of looks like that, and then it repeats. All right, so we'll use the quotient rule then, and what we know about the derivatives of sine and cosine to discover the derivative of tangent. So using the quotient rule, we have cosine x, the denominator, right, times the derivative of the numerator. So times the derivative of sine x. And then we'll subtract the numerator, sine x, times the derivative of the denominator, cosine x. So remember we have high d low minus, nope, I mixed that up. Low d high minus high d low, all over the square of the thing below. So that would be cosine squared x. See, now you know that I don't use that to remember it. Okay, now let's simplify. So when we take these derivatives, we have cosine x, now the derivative of sine x is cosine x, minus sine x, and then again the derivative of cosine x is minus sine x. Over cosine squared. Okay, so combining these together, we can see that the numerator turns out to be cosine squared x plus sine squared x. And that is a very important trig identity because for any number, cosine squared x plus sine squared x will be equal to 1. Okay, so the derivative of tangent x is 1 over cosine squared x. But this actually has a sort of more common name because 1 over cosine x is usually referred to as secant of x. So 1 over cosine squared x is secant squared x. And the domain of this will be the same as the domain of f of x. So secant squared x will exist everywhere that cosine x is not equal to 0. So everywhere except the places pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, etc.